Did you know that 70% of business transfers fail between generations? Only 5% survive the fourth generation. These stats are courtesy of PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, the massive accounting company, which I saw during a presentation by the BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada. Another stat: 47% of family businesses hoping to pass on to their kids do not have a succession plan in place. As I meet more hardworking Canadians on their wealth planning each day, I'm not surprised. Having masterminded with many top real estate investors and business owners, I find the vast majority of their children want no active role in the family real estate portfolio or the business. I've coached my clients, hence I've coached my clients on along this journey to maximize cash flow so that they can afford property management to reduce their effort and stress, aiming to be as passive as possible. But unfortunately, with rates being so high, unaffordability being so bad, that's not really a possibility in today's market, especially markets like Ontario and BC and Quebec, where the rules favor the tenant. In those places is no longer passive. Oh, by the way, my name is Erwin Szeto. I've been host of this show, Truth About Real Estate Investing for Canadians, since 2016. We've been on quite a journey. Investing has changed a lot since 2016, when you can still cash flow with a single family detached home. Fast forward today, we see many people are developing, being much more active, taking on a lot more risk with a lot larger dollars at stake. Unless they invest in the States, and the prices are much more affordable and it's a lot less risk as well. Anyways, there's a story floating around that's well documented. The former CEO of Starbucks, who was a former consultant at McKinsey, unfortunately, they didn't make expectations. Funny enough, when it was announced that the gentleman was no longer going to be CEO, and then they hired the new CEO, the stock just soared for Starbucks. And this is an example of it's honestly, in my experience, it's way easier to tell someone how to run a business versus actually running one. Specifically, well, if you know the story of Starbucks, you'll remember the story how the founder, during times of trouble, he would tour hundreds of stores. Remember, Starbucks, this is Starbucks we're talking about. They have hundreds of stores. I don't know, maybe thousands. Anyways, he would tour stores and speak to people on the front line of the business. He'd speak to baristas to identify problems and find solutions. Real estate investing is no different for real estate owners. In my experience, coaching hundreds of clients and managing our own formerly 12 property portfolio, 8 figures. For example, this week my tenant locked himself out of his garage as the emergency release on the door opener chain was disconnected. He requested my handyman. Normally, my assistant would dispatch my handyman, who bills me $90 to $100 per hour, probably some travel time for this one as well. But I'm frugal. So I went on YouTube, found a how-to video on how to reconnect a garage door opener chain, and emailed it to my tenant. He learned something new and corrected the problem. Money saved. Going forward, if there's a blackout, he knows how to manually open the garage door and reset it himself, avoiding future service requests that cost me money. Another example, this one a little bit more expensive. My assistant was making a list of outstanding rent payments from a tenant of mine. She owed me about 7 months of rent, so that's close to $10,000. When I reviewed the list of rent that she owed, I asked, where are the NSF charges, the non-sufficient funds? And so I had to check my lease to make sure how much I'm allowed to charge. It's an old lease. This tenant's been there for 8 years. Hence, also the rent is 8 years old, and we can't raise rents here in Ontario, not sufficient to cover inflation. Anyways, per the lease, I was only able to charge $90 per NSF. But again, I have like 7-8 months that she owes me, so it's a couple $100 that she owes me. Unfortunately, my cost is $50 per NSF. I let my assistant know, and we sent the tenant the bill, who thankfully had inherited some money, so she had money to pay and catch up my rent. Thank goodness. But without my oversight, I'd be out a couple $100 and on an already skinny property. Thanks to 8-year-olds rent, both the upstairs and the downstairs are both rent at the same time, so my rents are well under market by probably something like 30%. Thank you, rent control. In another property, our washer and dryer combo, they are actually one unit. So the washer died. Well, it wasn't working. My assistant dispatched my handyman. I had to intervene because our appliance repair person will troubleshoot with the tenant over phone, which saves me the handyman costs. The washer happened to be shot, and thanks to the tariffs, did you know that a new washer dryer is $2,000? My assistant normally would just take my credit card and pay for it, but instead I called a friend, called in a favor, asked for a used appliance contact, and got it done for $850 installed. Not bad, saved over half. Point is, I had to get involved. So whether you're the CEO of Starbucks or local real estate investor, property owner like myself, and pretty much all my clients, it's not possible to be completely passive and out of the day to day. Not when local property managers charge 40% more than their counterparts in the USA. And that's before we talk about sales tax. And then another story, my client Jane told me last week that her Hamilton tenant owed her 10 months of rent and vandalized her brand new renovated basement property. It was a brand new rental basement when she handed over the keys to her tenant. The tenant unfortunately cost $30,000 in damages. And I know the local real estate bulls will say, screen, 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 which may filter out 80% of the problems, but there's still always the 20% who ruin everything. To quote my friend, Melissa Dupuis of Athena Property, she's a past guest of the show. She's an excellent property manager and servicing the Hamilton to Niagara region. And did I mention she's a past guest of the show? Anyways, to quote Melissa, good tenancies can go bad, even if all the right things are done on screening. There are no guarantees that there will never be what I consider catastrophic problems. Once said problems occur, you are bound by the Residential Tenancy Act and the Landlord-Tenant Board to deal with them. The delays in due process compound the issues for sure. So, as I say to my clients, if you're not okay with the worst case scenario, then don't invest. My rule going forward is only invest in landlord-friendly strategies. Long-term residential rentals in Ontario, BC, and Quebec are not. And that's why you see my own portfolio shifting away from Ontario and into landlord-friendly strategies, including landlord-friendly USA. We are adding to our insurance policies for tax-free cash flow and estate planning purposes. And we're leveraging long-term stock market investments as well. By being strategic, leveraging, and simplifying, I'm not only improving my cash flow, I'm reducing taxes and higher expected ROI. I also, just as importantly, maybe more importantly, reduce my effort, stress, and improve my odds of success in successfully transitioning both business and investments to the kids. We will continue to offer local specialized realtor services. Just so happens that our clients are focused on exiting. They are taking profits. They want to reduce headaches. Again, a lot of them don't now have kids that want to take on their real estate portfolios. And I'm happy to announce that we are going to host our How to Sell an Income Property in 2026 event. It will be on Tuesday night, January 13th in 2026. So please save the date. Now, considering the current investing environment, we all must strategically pivot when it makes sense. I've been coaching local Canadians build wealth through investing in local real estate for 15 years. Did I mention that? Since 2010, I realized that we must strategically pivot and expand our services, as real wealth isn't just about owning rental properties. It's also about protecting your mental health and protecting your time. Doing more of what matters most in life. And the secret of happiness is well documented. It's largely about quality of relationships. And quality of relationships usually means you need to spend time, not time driving to properties wherever they may be. I know so many people who drive 4 hours to go one way to see a property. That's not for me. I'd rather spend that time with my family. It's more about keeping more of what you earn as well and making money work harder through smart tax, insurance, and financial planning. That's why we created I Win Wealth Planning. As I preach to my kids, those who fail to plan to fail. And courtesy Benjamin Franklin, he's the owner of that quote, not me. And I have mountains of evidence that we business owners of real estate investments have underplanned. Hence, I'm happy to share with you, my 17 listeners, our free Wealth Freedom Blueprint. It's a collaborative effort between my wife, Cherry Chan, CA, CPA, our good friend, past guest of the show, Hussein Kudrati, and myself. We talk about estate planning, we talk about wills, we talk about trusts, we talk about family trusts, talk about tax optimization. And then in my section, I share my 3 favorite passive investment strategies. And now I believe these offer high potential returns for the long-term passive investor that minimize taxes when used in combination. And I do believe they are ideal for most hardworking Canadians who do want to get ahead in life. To download the free Wealth Freedom Blueprint, go to www.infinitywealth.ca/free report. Again, the free Wealth Freedom Blueprint is available for download at www.infinitywealth.ca/free report. On to this week's show. I call it How Canadians Actively Invest in America, E-2 Visa, Co-Living Strategy, and Execution. So it's been no secret that I've been a fan of U.S. real estate investing. There's just so much more opportunity when you consider the fact that the landlord-friendly states are landlord and business-friendly. Landlords have pretty much all the rights. Yields are better, opportunity is better. Their economy will outperform the G7 and most of the world for the foreseeable future. Now, meet Lauren Cohen, an international lawyer cross-border specialist, and chair of the international investment community at eXp Commercial. A Toronto native now based in southern Florida, Lauren specializes in helping Canadians invest, live, and build businesses in the US through compliant profit structures that align real estate, immigration, and business strategy. Through her platform, Investing Across Borders, Lauren teaches Canadians how to qualify for the E-2 visa, integrate active businesses like co-living real estate. Co-living, for those who don't know, co-living would be kind of like a student rental, but meant for adults. And she helps people design holistic plans for long-term success in the USA. She and her team guide clients from start to execution, helping them move assets, build operations, and secure their future south of the border. Listeners will learn why the E-2 visa is called the Coveted Visa, how co-living creates high cash flow opportunities, and what Canadians must do now to prepare before more policy changes take effect. For those who don't follow the news, it's only getting harder to immigrate to the USA. To learn more or book a strategy session with Lauren, go to investingacrossborders.net. Again, that's investingacrossborders.net. Please enjoy the show. What's keeping you busy these days?
Oh boy. Erwin, this is a loaded question. So, life as an immigration attorney is like it's never been before, really. Because every other Friday, the government, President Trump, issues some kind of proclamation or executive order. Don't ask me to explain the difference because it's a very, very fine line, but it depends on what the proclamation or executive order addresses. And as immigration lawyers, every single one of them in the past little bit has affected us, has affected what we do. As Erwin and I joined the call today, we were talking a little about 2 weeks ago today when and there's a lot of confusion about what this means. So for those of you that have ever considered being sponsored or applied for a job in the US, the most common way to be sponsored is through what's called, well, if you're Canadian in certain categories, it could be a TN, which is an active visa. But the most common way for an advanced degree that doesn't qualify under one of these certain categories is called an H-1B. And an H-1B is for somebody that has an advanced degree of 4 years or more, or the equivalent of work or a combination thereof. Erwin, guess how many H-1Bs I had when I came into the US? Just guess. I don't know if I told you, but just guess.
No idea.
4. So guess what that means? That means that my employers, and one of them was a renewal, my employers would have had to pay $400,000 in fees plus pay me. So you know what that means? That means
Goodbye business.
been hiring me, and I wouldn't be here today. Or I mean, I'm great, but I'm not that great. You know, I was saying to Erwin before that I charge $550 to $600 an hour US. And
US.
He wants me to be very clear about that to show the value of what I'm bringing to you today. But at that time, that was not my billable rate. Either way, there was nobody that would have paid me $100,000 or whatever they were paying me plus $100,000 in fees times 4. It just wouldn't have happened. So there's a lot of very significant changes happening, and I expect the next round to include E-2 visas, which are the core of what we do. Yeah, your eyes are expanding because it is a big deal, and I think by the end of the year, and you know, again, this is not legal advice, this is my projection, and I do not have a crystal ball. But my projection is that by the end of the year or early next year, we're going to have a minimum mandated investment threshold for E2s, which I expect to be around 250,000. That's not including if you're buying real estate. That is the investment in the business itself.
It's still not that much money. It's
Well,
still
it's a
smaller than
lot
a
of money for
condo
people
in
that
Toronto.
are struggling to find 100,000 to buy a business. You're right; they really should
Yeah.
have that much because if you're moving to another country, you need to invest significantly. But for solopreneurs or people that have service businesses, it's hard to figure out where to spend that money, and
Right.
so that's a challenge.
Yeah, because Oh, so with the 100,000 with the H1 visa, you correct me on the terminology. Did that was that is that per year or is that one time?
It's one time, but
Okay.
it's also upon renewal. But it's
Oh,
yeah, it's just a fee. It's not
right,
an investment. It's just
right.
a fee.
It's basically an FU. Like this is FU money. Like, uh,
Uh, yeah,
right. If
yeah.
you're if
So
you're
now
if you're
Canada,
crazy enough to pay this,
yeah,
sure. But
Canada's
who is?
responding, and because this is impacting the countries it impacts the most are India and China, for example. But India, because there's so many tech people coming from India. So um, Canada has responded by promoting more of these advanced degree visas to encourage and enhance immigration to Canada from these high, highly educated people,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
you can't get an H-1B generally unless you have this advanced degree, like um, like Cherry, for example, right?
Right.
So she would have been an easy person to sponsor before 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
I was pretty easy to sponsor as a lawyer until 2 weeks ago. And it's not about the process, it's about the cost because it becomes cost prohibitive to hire people for small businesses that are creating, that are utilizing these services to create strategies. So, what does that mean? So, that means that now, for those that thought they were going to get a sponsorship for a job, you really need to look at the E-2 more seriously. And guess what? You need to look at the E-2 more seriously now, not a week from now, not a month from now, but now, because things are changing and they're changing quickly, and we don't know when the changes will happen. And what does that mean? So, when changes happen on these proclamations or executive orders, they're implemented generally within 24 hours. So, it's not like you have a period of adjustment or to go and make the changes that you need. So if you want an E-2 visa, and especially as you and I will talk about through real estate investing, which is my specialty, but if you want an E-2 visa, you want to bring your family to the US and have a renewable, flexible opportunity. And by the way, you don't have to move with an E-2 visa. But you do have to act now because it may not be there. And we don't know when that's going to change.
Now, Lauren, for the listeners' benefit, you and I last spoke in May, and I
Yes.
believe you had a good number of people contacting you to move. Oh,
Yes.
what it was right after our election? I think it
That's
was right
right.
after the Canadian election, and then your phone just completely blew up.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy, but there were a lot of tire kickers. And I think that this is what's been happening. There's a lot of people that are making the move. There's a lot of people that are going to the people that are advertising the most. There's a lot of people that are going to the cheapest option. And what's going to happen is they may get a visa, but they're not going to have a strategy. They may get a visa, but they're not going to renew it. They may get a visa and get out for the short term, but for the long term, they're not going to be able to stay. They're not going to have any kind of long term strategy for themselves or their family. So my approach is very holistic. As you know, it's a comprehensive A to Z or A to Z for my Canadian friends option that takes you through the whole journey. Like I'm not just going to look at Erwin and Cherry. I'm going to look at how old are your children and what is the best option and which of you might be what would be better to be employed or maybe start a separate business as a potential green card path. So I'm going to look at the whole picture. What happened is a lot of people were in a panic and they still are and they're but Canadians are small c conservative and you have your roots there and you have your families there and you have your friends there and maybe you have your kids that are in high school that it becomes a problem because at 21 they age out, so you have to manage the whole process and coordinate the whole process strategically, and that's really important because most lawyers don't do that. Most lawyers just say it's a visa, let's get you the visa, that's it. With me, you're not a number. As you know, I create relationships, right? How long have I known you? For 4 years or something? Since
It's
like,
been a few, yeah.
yeah. So, and I think we were introduced, well, we had met and then we were reintroduced by Scott. And, at the end of the day, it's a very small real estate investing world in Canada, right? And I work with a lot of Canadian real estate investors that are investing in the US.
Because they're
and
the
so
ones
there's,
buying.
pardon me.
They're the only one buying investment
Exactly.
properties.
But
No one's buying locally.
so
Elbows
one
up, by
thing
the way.
that's really really important is that you have to be they have to come from a place of integrity, because otherwise that next referral that somebody says, "Oh, Lauren, you should meet Erwin," they'll be like, "Oh no, she did this or she did." So you always have to come up, because it is a small kind of incestuous world in a lot of ways, and you have to show and you have to deliver and you have to care about people. And I'm not a numbers person. I mean, I understand numbers, but we're not a volume business. We are a small number of people getting through the journey with the highest level of success and the highest level of care and diligence. And that's really important.
Yeah, leave the numbers to the accountants because my wife
There you
is getting
go.
her USCPA, and
That's it.
it is, and as you can imagine, you probably heard it as well, and you've gone through it as well. It's tricky to be filing twice, both in Canada and the US. So
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
so there still needs to be some numbers involved.
Yes, but I'm saying it's like with me, it's not volume. It's really, it's very strategic.
So for the listeners' benefit, so yeah, so we spoke in May. Our election was April 28th,
That's
and
right.
that's why your phone was blowing up.
It was crazy.
Uh, yeah, you know, you and I discussed. Well, at least I'll just share what I discussed with you was quite shocked with the outcome. I think
Yeah,
people are still shocked.
I think a
uh,
lot of people are still shocked.
yeah, and did many follow through with their Leave
Not
Canada?
nearly as many as I expected.
Yeah,
But again, there are so many factors at play, and it's not that I think it's not for a lack of desire. It's often for they have their elderly parents to look after, or their kids that they're concerned about. But people are like, I've had 3 or 4 calls in the past 24 hours or 48 hours of people that were looking back in May or June and now are ready to go, because they're realizing the writing is not getting any better on the wall and they need to take action, and really take action soon, because the things are changing down here as well.
yeah. Especially for that really high in demand professions like doctor, nurse, construction. Like the Americans still seem to have much demand for those places for those positions.
But don't forget, you're not going to be able to get sponsored very likely anymore. However, the beauty of an E-2 is that the spouse can work anywhere. So you can choose who is the beneficiary of the E-2 and who is what's called the derivative, which is the spouse. And that spouse can work anywhere and potentially also be sponsored for a green card. So there's a lot of paths to long-term status. And one of the things that separates us from pretty much everybody else is that I am Canadian in the US. I've been through the process. My ex husband was deported on the way back from our honeymoon. It's not something anybody can make up. It happened to me, and I'm picturing it right now. As you can see, my head thinking about that experience. That was quite an experience. And we
And
have
that was years ago, right? That's not
that
this
was
current
2007.
administration.
No, 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 no. That was interesting. But suffice it to say that I've made it my life's work to help Canadians come through the process, through the journey painlessly, and hold their hand throughout it. And we are the only company that does offer that level of concierge, high touch service, and offer a path to a visa through real estate investing. So it's a beautiful thing, because not everybody wants to buy a pizza shop or something like that. I pick on pizza shops, but
Or a franchise.
or a franchise, or a lot of people, real estate's an asset. Real estate's a legacy. Real estate allows you to have passive income. We turn your passive real estate investing into an active business, and that's our superpower.
So for the Canadian listeners' benefit, what is the path look like? What are your best practices?
So
And
we
if you can throw in there as well, like what markets you like and
sure
investment strategy.
we take every client at face value and take them through the journey from where they are. So some clients already have investments, and we'll try to incorporate or integrate them into the investment strategy and the visa strategy. But understand that a single family home is not going to really help very much, or a condo, because what are you really doing with that? So we create strategies that incorporate or integrate what you already do own into a longer term opportunity that can also allow us to create a visa friendly business. So there might be multiple streams of income. One of them could be owning and renting out the property. You know, I love co-living. That's one of my favorite business models because it's multiple units within one structure. And so I call it mini multifamily, which probably I made that up, but that's really what it is because it's like 6 or 7 units within one 15 or 1600 square foot property. And that alone, one property with some additional streams of income that we build with you, depending on who you are and your background. Like, for example, let's say you came in and, you know, Cherry has this great, well, she does, experience with numbers and providing tax services and creating strategic entrepreneur programs. Well, maybe your additional services might be related to those tax services or strategic partnerships with businesses that can bring value to the clients. Maybe it's you're focusing on entrepreneurs or young professionals, and now you're adding this service of helping them to build and scale their businesses. Or maybe you're going to be attracting other Canadians in to follow your model, and that becomes a quasi coaching program. So it's really everything that we do is customized. Nothing is really cookie cutter because cookie
Mm-hmm.
cutter doesn't work. And
Mm-hmm.
even if it works, it's not going to work for the long term. It might get you,
Mm-hmm.
as I say, in the door. It might get you a visa. There's a lot of ways to get that visa, but what good does that do you if 5 years from now you have to go packing and you have to move your kids back back to wherever, Toronto, Windsor, whatever? It's not something I want my clients to have to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, Lauren, bring it back to the basics. What who I find wants an E-2 visa is generally people who are looking for significant business, as in they already are full time investors, but they want to be a full time investor in the USA,
Mhm.
or they're making a significant business acquisition and that acquisition is meant to be part of their large legacy in a state,
Sure.
right?
So
Does that sound about right?
because our signature program is the real estate program. Why? Because nobody else has it. But the easiest way is always going to be through a business acquisition, business expansion, business investment, as long as you own 50% of whatever you're investing in, and it's a substantial investment. So the words right now are substantial investment in a non-marginal business. What does that mean? Well, nothing. In my book, I call the E-2 the coveted visa. And the standard, and this was in 2017 when I wrote the book, was 100,000. Now I like to see it higher. Somebody said to me earlier, I only want to invest 80. I'm like, well, with 80 plus our fees, maybe, but it really depends. Is it a service business? I like to see my clients have more than enough invested in the business so that they can be successful. Because if they're going to be concerned about investing 100, 150,000 in a business, like we talked about before we started recording, they probably aren't an ideal client because when you get here, you're not going to be making money day one, right? Generally, in a franchise, even an existing business. Now, maybe if you buy a successful laundromat, you might turn it over and you might add on some additional streams of income to that, like maybe delivery services. That could be immediate income. But we have to figure out what the business model is, and if it's ready, if it's not just investor ready, but is it ROI ready? Is it going to show a return immediately? How quickly do you need it? Do you have a substantial nest egg so that you don't have to rely on this business? And too many people come to me, and the 100,000 is a huge stretch, and I don't even feel comfortable helping them because I know I can get them the visa, but then what happens? So ethically, I have a problem with that because I don't want to put somebody in a situation where they come to this country. No matter what, it's a different country. I've been through the process. It's a different country. There's an adjustment. I remember one of the stories I share way back when I first came here, which is like literally way back, maybe before you were born. Okay, not quite. But anyway, I came here, and at the time, I rented an apartment. And I don't even know if this still exists in Canada, but we used, I don't think so because everything's online, but we used to use post dated checks, right? Remember post dated checks?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay. So post
yeah.
dated checks means I'll put, 10-1, 11-1, 12-1, 1-1, and then I give the checks to whomever and they cash them on those dates. So I did this with this because they didn't have online banking. It was 25 years ago. I did this with, or actually more, it was when I first came here in the 90s. So I did this and they said, "What are these?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They didn't even know what a post-dated check was. So it's those little things, and I just use that as a simple example, but it's those little things that you just take for granted.
Hmm.
They're the same, and they're not. Banking is different. So many systems are different. People are different. The way
Hmm.
people approach business is different. Networking is different. But I will tell you one thing. If you're an entrepreneur, there is no place like it because you have opportunities that do not exist in Canada, no matter what. Because Canada, for good, bad, or ugly, is a socialized. It has a socialized government, a socialized approach, sharing of wealth. I'm not saying it's bad or good. You know, socialized medicine is good and bad because you pay here, but you get what you pay for. And when you want an MRI, you go and you get an MRI the next day. Like it's
Hmm.
not.
Hmm.
There's no wait. So I guess at the end of the day, the key is if you're a capitalist, an entrepreneur, that a real estate investor that wants to build and scale and grow a
Yeah.
business, and
And get
make
ahead in life.
key returns and have opportunities for yourself and your kids and send your kids to schools in the US. Okay, and by the way, I'll share something about that in a minute. There is no other place. Now, why was I going to share something about that? So my son is almost 15 and he's a freshman. Do you know what that means, Erwin?
That's first year high school.
First year high school.
Yeah.
So you're a freshman in high school, and then you're a freshman again when you go to college. Okay. Remember, college here, universities are called colleges in the US. This is all new, you know, wording for me and terminology and whatever. So my kid is a freshman in high school. He has a college advisor already, a freshman in high school. He's taking college level courses in first year of high school. Okay, now he's smart, but you if you don't do this now, you don't compete. And I like you have to like I went to York University, Osgoode Hall Law School. It was easy. I did my law school admission test. I did all of this stuff. I did well and blah blah blah. Here, it's nothing like that. So if you have children and you want them to compete in these opportunities, you got to get them here soon so that they can compete. Because I remember when I applied to Harvard Law, they didn't let me in because I didn't meet the quota. Okay. So I'm just saying that doors open, but you need status in order for those doors to open.
No, another like basic thing. Can you explain what the E-2 visa, why it is the golden visa? What benefits does someone get when they have one?
Sure. So I'm going to and I don't mean to contradict you. Let's not call it the golden visa because
Oh,
right
I'm
now
sorry. I forget what you said. What do you
it
call it
has
in the
the
book?
gold card. It's the coveted visa. And
The coveted visa.
why it's so
Apologies.
important because everybody wants it. So the E-2 is the most flexible visa. It's a 5-year for Canadians, renewable visa. It's renewable indefinitely. You don't ever have to get a green card. As long as at the moment, and everything I say is caution with the fact that I don't know what changes are coming. But
Yeah.
as of this moment, October 3rd,
Third.
2025, this
Yeah.
is what's going on. It's a 5-year renewable visa. You create a substantial business with a substantial investment that's going to hire people and have an economic impact. If you do all of those things and you expand your business and you scale and you grow, you can renew it. It's coveted because there's no requirement of residency. You can be anywhere you want. It has complete freedom and flexibility, and it's the only visa really available for entrepreneurs. Okay. That allows you to invest in almost anything except for stuff that's illegal, like cannabis or prostitution. Okay. Other than that, pretty much anything goes. So sorry, Erwin, I know that you were.
You know,
That was
I'm out
right
now.
up your alley, right?
I was gonna give up real estate. Like those areas
Okay.
were they're looking good.
Right. So the E-2, you can find a lot of resources about E-2s in my LinkedIn. Everything for that's assigned to me or all of my branding is based on investing across borders. I also have a new brand I launched, which is fractional services for all of our global clients, because when you get here, you need to be able to scale and grow your business. But investing across borders is our core business. Lauren ESQ is my personal brand. Lauren ESQ is Esquire, which here in the US stands for attorney at law. Okay.
Oh,
So
I
if
didn't know that.
you go on LinkedIn and connect with me, you'll see tons of articles on Facebook. Join our group. Tons of articles about the E-2 and green cards and how to get an E-2 and what's involved in an E-2 and what's involved in the other visas and what's happening. Like today, when the proclamation or executive order comes out, we'll have an article by the end of the weekend addressing what's in that because everybody wants to know. So as an authority figure, I want to be able to deliver the facts, not the BS that you hear, because people were asking me questions. They were like, "Oh no, this is what it means." I'm like, "Nope, nope." And then I said, "You know what? Let's wait a week and see what he does." Because apparently, as of today, DACA, which is a whole other story, was reinstituted. But again, I don't know because I haven't done the research. But suffice it to say, this is a moving pendulum. And there is nothing that is 100% in the immigration space. So if you are interested in potentially having status, whether you relocate or not, we need to get you set up now. Get your entity set up, get your structure set up. You can invest in a lot of Erwin's share opportunities as part of your overall structure, but because they're passive, they alone won't qualify because there's no way to turn those investments into active. But if you
Hmm.
put them in as part of your overall portfolio, we can build a business around it. So
Right.
I just wanted
And
to
again,
throw
for the
that out.
listener's benefit, that's the major distinction, whether or not you're passive or active.
Correct.
I may never visit my properties, so you couldn't be more
That's
passive.
okay because you're just cashing, right?
Yeah, I'm just no different than all these people want to work from home. I want to invest from home,
Got it.
right? So that's the lane I choose. Now, you mentioned earlier you really like co-living. Now, co-living has been a growing strategy because, and I believe I first heard of it in like New York City and Miami. So like busy urban areas where real estate's really
Yeah,
expensive.
not only. I'll tell you that I have a
Oh,
colleague.
I know, not only because real estate just keeps getting more expensive.
So I have a colleague here who's from Toronto who built
Hmm.
co-living in Toronto, ironically. And
Yeah, I just heard about a co-living in Toronto.
yep,
Tell me more.
he's been building it for about 10 years and now he's building here. Co-living is the new craze. Not,
Hmm.
you know, it's a huge and growing industry because not because of the price of housing being so unaffordable. Apartments are so unaffordable. I rented a house before I bought this one because I'd sold my other house. I paid almost $7,000 a month. That was a crazy amount of money to pay for. I don't know what it was, but it was a nice house, but that's a lot of money to give in rent, which basically you get no return for that, right? You're not building equity or just say, here you go every month. Now I do that with my country club dues, but that's another story. So the point is that most people can't, it's unaffordable, and so especially for young professionals, and co-living is like co-working. So co-working came in about 15 years ago, became super popular. Now it's really kind of the way to go, especially during and after COVID, because people didn't need the big office space. So you can rent a part-time office. Here you rent a room, and in some cases it's a room with its own bathroom, which is my preference, and you pay $1,000 a month, give or take, depending on where. So it's very popular in places with blue collar workers, students, young professionals that are just starting out, people that don't need a whole house, but they have access to a kitchen. So they don't have to, it's not like an efficiency. It's more than that. Some of them you might might put your own little microwave and little fridge in your unit, but you have some privacy. It's there's a company called Pad Split. Why do they call it that? Because they have a padlock on each of these units, these pads. So each unit has its own separate entrance, so to speak, even though there's one common entrance. So it's very lucrative. Your cap rates are about 14 to 16% potentially. You can convert, you can renovate, or you can build from ground up. So there's a lot of ways to do it. And I like it because it's now creating affordable housing, which is in the national interest. So there's a lot of stories around this because there's a huge lack of affordable housing in the US. is as in Canada, but I don't focus on investing in Canada. That's not my thing. But at the end of the day, this is a great opportunity and a great way to get a visa and make money at the same time, super fast.
And it's all legit. It's and yeah, that's the key thing. It's all legit. And also from a demographic standpoint, like I've seen similar strategies with student rentals, and then former student rentals with like seniors, for example, they'd rent a room basically in a house, and other common strategies were divorcees, where they only really just needed a room in the house in order to keep the monthly rent costs down.
Yes.
I actually haven't personally seen one of these in Toronto, but I know I googled and there's quite a
Yeah,
few of them
there's a lot
actually.
of them, especially like near U of T and near York and all of that, near all the schools, near, downtown. Lots more than I think you think.
Right. And again, it makes a lot of sense, especially in an urban area where there's all these dining options. You don't necessarily need a living room. You can just meet your friends at a cafe or a restaurant.
Yeah.
And then what markets do you like for co-living
Oh,
strategy?
so cool. So it's always going to be your kind of lower priced land, lower priced opportunities like Houston, Jacksonville, Atlanta, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's funny because you say lower price, but those aren't small cities. They're all 2 million plus population.
Yeah, it's not that they're small cities, it's that they're lower priced. The price points are lower on average. Let's say in Houston than in other parts of, like, okay, Jacksonville compared to Miami, there's no comparison. So you can live in Miami or Boca and own in Jacksonville and still qualify. You could live in Orlando and own in Jacksonville and still qualify.
For those who don't know Jacksonville well, like what kind of price? Like paint us an image. Like how big is the house? What does it cost
As I
you?
mentioned,
What's the
you're
lot
usually
size?
looking at 15 to 1600 square feet.
Right.
Sometimes it's from the ground up. Sometimes you're building, sometimes you're converting a 3.2 to a 5.5 or a 6.4 or something like that. But you're not looking at huge properties. Now, there is a way to build multiple levels. That's another option as well, depending on who you are, or what you want to do.
Right. So this is not a cookie cutter strategy.
No,
This
I
could be
mean
what
there
other
are
people
cookie
want.
cutter options, but we
Yeah.
can we can also custom build based on client need and demand and desire.
Okay. So what does an entry level opportunity look like for co
You're
living?
looking at about 3 to 350 for the first unit. You can get financing from one of our friends for that, and so you're putting down 30% plus a fee. Our fee, so about 150 is really what you're looking at.
150 to come out of pocket for
Yeah,
your investment,
maybe more
which is
like
not very
10
much. It
to have to build a business model. But we help with everything from soup to nuts.
almost sounds too good to be true because it sounds pretty easy.
Pretty easy.
And then what about management? What does the day to day look like for the investor?
So that's all part of their process. I don't handle that. Eventually the goal would be that they hire a property manager, but the company that I refer them to that sets up these investments, they handle that initially.
They have referrals or they have management in house.
And everybody is different. So sometimes it's referrals. It really, there again, it's not cookie cutter. Everyone is different.
Right. Now you mentioned several markets as well. Do you have a favorite, or are those like those are
No, it really depends on what the client wants. Florida is always going to be the easiest in my opinion, but Texas is pretty good too.
right? I just find most Canadians are well, most Canadians. You and I are from the GTA area, so almost everyone on the east side of the country knows Florida. Everyone on the west side, they all know like Arizona.
Right.
And then Texas is just so large that there's just so many opportunities.
It's huge. I mean, San
Right.
Antonio, Dallas, Houston. There's so many places in Texas that are available.
And you have boots on ground in all these areas,
If
in
we
the
don't,
cities you recommended.
I mean, we do in these places, but if we don't, we get them.
That's one of the nice things about America. It's hard to find these sort of resources anywhere here in Canada.
True, isn't it? No, here I'm
But
pretty connected.
yeah,
I'm very involved in. I'm also a realtor, and I'm the chair of the International Investment Committee for EXP Commercial. So I have access to people all over the country, literally all over the world, for that matter.
Apologies. What's the population of Jacksonville? Because I just thinking of it because you mentioned
No.
Atlanta and Houston, which are both over 2 million
Yes,
population.
it's a growing city, and they're expecting to have the Super Bowl there in a couple of years, so that'll be a big change. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars, so there's activity, but it is more of a blue collar city. So
That's great for
still,
tenants. A million population, Jacksonville.
hmm
Where I was going is that it's always I think it's a shock to some Canadians as well that we only have 3 cities with a population over 2 million.
I'm sorry, where?
In Canada, we only have 3 cities with a population over 2 million.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, see, fun useless fact of the day. Versus, I forget how many the Americans have, but they have a lot more than that.
Yes, I have no idea.
Well, I'm actually trying to think off the top of my head how many cities we have of a million or more. So Jacksonville is a million, and then I think maybe we don't even have 10. I don't think 10 cities with a population of a million. Ottawa, I think Greater Ottawa is only over a million, and that's our
Wow.
nation's capital, right?
Yeah, that's crazy, but they're all government workers.
Well, real estate's expensive there. I think a co-living strategy would work wonderful there if the
Well,
zoning
I
were allowed.
actually, look, my first client that did co-living here did co-living in Ottawa first. He's from Ottawa.
And is they're looking for an E2 or this is
No,
just an
they have an
investment?
E2. They actually just moved here. They got their E2 last year. They moved here like a month ago. You may know them. They're from Wealth Genius, Rodrigo and Luciana. Do you know them?
I've probably met them before.
Yeah.
They're moving full time
Yeah, they did.
and they're talented Canadians.
They are very talented real estate investor, Brazilian Canadians. Yes.
I've heard from more people who are on the way.
hmm Well, I'm here to help you all. That's really
Right.
what I do, and I do it with care and diligence and consideration and empathy because I know it's hard.
Now, for the listeners' benefit, you service those who are coming to America. What about going to Canada from America?
So we also help people moving north. I am still licensed in Ontario, and so yes, we do. It's not as popular, but it is still, these days it's an option. So if you want to move north, we can help you with that as well.
Right. I don't think we have any of those listeners on here, though. It's
Right.
primarily Canadians on here. I don't think we have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, coming south and creating a portfolio. And by the way, we have access to investments in multiple countries. It's not just the U.S. And sometimes it's good to diversify. Like I love Honduras, Costa Rica, Dubai is a great place to invest. Doing an event on October 20th about moving to Portugal. So, it's the US is always going to be my number one sweet spot because that's where I am and that's what I do. But it's important that you diversify your portfolio and don't put all your eggs in any one basket, including Canada or the US or both.
Mhm. Tell me more about Honduras. This just happens to be the first one you named. What kind of investing is that you like
Well,
in
we have
Honduras?
investments from about 300,000 or 400,000 all the way up to a few million for beautiful opportunities, and you can rent them out as Airbnbs, and you can pay somebody $500 a month to be a full-time staff member for you. That's crazy. 500 a month for a full-time staff member.
And then what are these? Are these like vacation condos? Where are
Yep,
they?
they're condos all the way up to full homes. You can live there, you can move there, you can have them as vacation homes. They have rental opportunities, they have property management. Everything is put in place. These are great. I actually saw them with that real estate investors cruise from Canada. I took a bunch of people there last March or February, and then one of my strategic partners in March started really building this out, and it's just going like gangbusters. They're very popular.
And then what was the one you named after Honduras?
Costa Rica, Panama.
Similar opportunity,
Yeah,
vacation
so
rentals.
I'm so sorry. I can't get into all the details of all of them, but suffice it to say that we focus on 12 countries. And it really, depends on your budget. If your budget is 300,000, you're going to have different opportunities and different options. If your budget is 2 million and you want to do it for yourself, I might put you in somewhere like, I mean, Mexico has great opportunities too. So It's about what the client wants and figuring out the strategy that makes the most sense for them. If you
Right,
want
right,
a
right.
visa, you can't get the visa by investing in Honduras. Okay, you have to invest in the U.S.
Got it. Got it.
Also, there's also great opportunities in Puerto Rico, which people overlook. And Puerto Rico is one of those places that is a U.S. territory that still allows you to get a visa, and you can invest in some great opportunities there.
For most Canadians I speak to, it's almost all of their assets and income is Canadian. So it's my own feeling from my own, from for at least personally for Cherry and I, that U.S. is our first place for diversification,
Right.
ahead of those other locations you named. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's 100% true.
At what point do you think someone should expand to like a Honduras or a Portugal or Costa Rica?
There's no time that's too soon. I think that diversification in any portfolio is key. So if you have the drive and inclination, go and visit and do a reconnaissance tour to find out if it's somewhere you want to invest. You can do it remotely as well, but it's always best to see it. The beaches are gorgeous.
Hmm. I think what you said right earlier, like U.S. is the home of capitalism.
That's right.
It's hard to beat the home of capitalism for investment for one's investment dollars.
Capitalism, yes.
Right? If anyone disagrees, please go argue with Warren Buffett. And
Or uh, what's my God? I can't remember. Elon or Jeff, Mr. Bezos, who had the
yeah,
what $200 million wedding, I think, or something. I don't know.
he got married again.
What?
Did he just get married?
Yeah,
I did not know.
it was a $200 million wedding with a $400 million prenup. I'm sure. So yeah.
That's probably the prenup agreement.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure as always. And again, if anybody wants to reach me, investing across borders, across the board. And our email is hello@investingacrossborders.net. Hello@investingacrossborders.net. Now, we can also help you just invest. So if you want to complement your portfolio with share with Erwin's company, then we can help you to set up the right strategy as well. So we're happy to help you with any of this process of coming to the US, investing in the US, setting up the right structure, and setting up the right structure so that you're set up for a potential E-2 later. Because that's important, is looking at the long term, and the long term needs to be shorter than you originally planned because things are happening quickly.
And that's exactly what you said in May as well.
Yes, well,
Things are changing. Don't wait.
more quickly than it was then.
Lauren, thank you so much for your time. I'll send you the bill for this,
Sure.
the money for the $600 an hour.
Yeah, I'm sending you the bill. Okay, the bill. The check is in the mail, right?
Yeah, you got it. Thanks so much. All right, friends, that wraps up another episode of the Truth About Real Estate Investing show for Canadians. Hope you got as much out of this one as I did. Remember that whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, there's always something new to learn, and it's always about building that practical knowledge base that gets you closer to financial freedom. If you found value today, please do us a favor and leave us a review or a rating, share this episode with a friend, or better yet, join our community of real estate investors who are taking action and making moves. And hey, if there's a topic you want us to cover, or there's a certain guest you'd like us to have on the show, drop me a line. My DMs are open on social media. Reply to this email that this has arrived on. I'm not hard to find. We're all about getting you the unfiltered truth to help you on your journey. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay smart, stay curious, and keep building that future. Catch you later.